Welcome back, tribe. Have one here from Dad Saves America. And Rudyard Lynch explains why 2/3 of young men are single.
2/3 of men under 30 are single. And again, people lie about these numbers.
2/3.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't know that stat. 2/3 of men 18 to 30 are single. And I think the numbers are really higher because most people, when they say they're in a relationship, they're in a situationship. Or maybe not most, but a very large amount. And I don't count situationships as relationships. And I can see the pain in your face.
Well, not to interrupt the train of thought, but the almost singular piece of advice I've been giving my son since he's graduated high school is, I don't care about any other part of what you decide to do with your life. Find a woman that shares your values and team up with it.
That's very Italian. My father, growing up, said the only thing that matters in life is honor, Rudyard. I don't care if you're poor. I don't care if you're a failure. I care that you have honor.
It is very Italian. You're right. It is very it is a very inherited, multi-generational Sicilian, I trust no one but the family.
Yes.
Have the family is everything perspective.
When Uncle Tony from Palermo had all of his money stolen from the mafia, he could support on his wife, and then they moved out to Syria, and then they moved out to Messina, and it was all fine. But he trusted in his wife.
Wait, is this a hypothetical? Or you actually have an Uncle Tony?
No, I made all of this up.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of an Italian chain of logic.
Yes. Okay. But all right, so keep going. So you got this 2/3 of your generation.
I'm named Rudyard William Lynch. Where's the Italian in that name?
I know, yeah. The Roman Empire, baby. We got around.
Yeah. So, so a third of men under 30 are virgins. Again, I assume that's an undercount. And so this is a huge issue. And
so this is the incel revolution, which is one of
exactly. Yes. And so let's say you work all the jobs and then you can't afford to have a family or you can't get laid. What's the point of working the job if there's not the reproductive payoff? So that's one. Second thing is you can't afford a house to support kids because that's through the roof. And keep in mind, young people spend 2/3 of their income on rent. Mm-hmm. And
I mean, I did that when I got out of school. I worked in Viacom at New York City. I didn't make enough. I was just racking up credit card debt, and 2/3 of my income was the rent. That's exactly.
Yes, that's also New York City, though. Like New York City.
No, all of America is New York City. I'd see.
Exactly. Yes, but New York City is a peripheral. Like New York City is a horrible example. That might have been normal when you were in New York City, but now that's the whole country. And it also rent is money that's not. It's not like economically reproductive. So there's certain.
It's not an investment in
exactly.
An asset.
Yes. And so that's a second thing. So you have mating issue, you have rent issue.
What's the heart of the mating issue? Very briefly, because Chris Williamson spends a lot of time on this kind of stuff.
Yes. So the shortest answer I could give is I would say it's heavily an economics issue due to the structure of dating apps, where dating apps. And I'm friends with a lot of like dating content creators. This is something Homath has also said, that dating apps are the thing that killed it. Where you look at the chart of male virginity, it jumps from 8% when the iPhone was invented, and then it immediately went up to 27% over a 10-year period. And that's due to the introduction of dating apps. And keep in mind, over 60% of relationships today are started online. For Gen Z, I'm going to guess it's higher. And
this is like the harem effect. It's like one high status male attracts all of the attention of the females, and the disparities there leave everybody else like, oh, what are you, under 6'2"? Forget it.
And I think I blame dating apps the most, because if you were to go back to like 2015,
I don't really think it's dating apps. So Tinder, I just checked, was released in 2012, and economically we were doing fine. We had a nice rebound from the 08-09 crash. People were still making decent money. Inflation hadn't bit into people's earning potential just yet. And the advent of social media didn't really metastasize in society to the level it has today, where people are now being plunged down echo chambers and further dividing each other into like infinitesimally smaller boxes of like, I mean, honestly, whatever you want today. Pick the rabbit hole you want to go down. So it's causing a lot of tension in dating. Yes, dating apps didn't help. The internet sure as fuck didn't help. And social media was probably the final nail in the coffin, on top of the economic woes I talked about. It was like a perfect storm, a nice recipe for population collapse, where you introduce economic uncertainties at a nation level, not just like a local job market, but the whole country's not doing well. No jobs available, everything shipped overseas. You need too much experience, ghost jobs. It's almost impossible to graduate and get a job in your, specialization of college, whatever you did major in. Then your only choice is to work some meaningless dead-end jobs where companies are not paying a living wage. And then you try to go on dating apps to go, take a girl out on a date to a restaurant that's already too expensive when you can hardly afford it because rent is so oppressive. And so you could only afford to go on dates here and there, perhaps not even the best places. So you try to invite a girl out to coffee or a walk or some shit like that, which is next to impossible these days because women on their side of the fence are being told that they should be taking to 5-star dinners and all this other shit that they're seeing on social media where their compatriots are constantly frequenting, especially the beautiful women. So they equate that if that beautiful woman can get that, I deserve it too. So it causes this fracture in the double standards and expectations from a man. Where men are just like, okay, as long as she treats me right. Women are like, no, he's got to have it all because this girl says this is what you need to expect from a man and she has everything. So she must be right. I mean, this is really what's the root to all these problems that we're having between men and women. When you go to countries, that's why if you go to a more economically depressed country where people are still far more traditional, not as plugged into social media, don't have the luxuries of the West where they could sit on their ass and really contemplate what they want to do, right? There are no consequences for being lazy. You go into these other places, like think about Philippines and Thailand and all those other countries that we watch here in Eastern Europe too, where people are still very pragmatic. They live in large family groups. They still go to work to support the family. It's very normal here for girls to give money to their family, to their fathers to help support them, to grandma, to grandpa, to whatever. That's the kind of stuff's unheard of in the West. So when you come here, you'll notice that the dating landscape is completely different, even though we still have that technology, the internet, dating apps, and social media. So I think if you were to slice this up like a pie, the economics are what makes this the worst. Like the economics underpin all these problems and exacerbate them times 100. It's like the amplifier. Dating apps wouldn't even be a problem if we all had a living wage and could afford to go out and could buy houses, could start families, and it wasn't financially punitive to do so. Yeah, dating apps, no problem. Every man's earning decent income. But the problem is only a few men are earning decent income. And so that's slim pickings. And then only a few women are actually good looking enough and traditional enough. The rest are very hypersexualized and masculine. So it's causing major divisions. Dude, this is way worse than it's just dating apps.
This is a much healthier ecosystem. And there was still feminism. There was still all these other things. And then the dating apps and the screens. And when people give dating advice, the most common dating advice is go to group events, go to community stuff. But if you look at what the average Zoomer does, the average Zoomer spends 8 hours a day on screens. I think even independent from work. And so what that means is no one's going outside. And so if no one's going outside, that creates an issue. And I look at...
It's the problem of, even from a parenting young kids perspective, if you want to send your kids outside, and no one's outside's super boring. And so pretty quickly you're like, well, I put you in the backyard and you're there kicking dust around. And after 30 minutes, I kind of understand you don't want to stay outside because no one's outside.
Outside's a parking lot. And because people say, I mean, it also annoys me, people say, Roger, you should touch grass. And like, I've hiked the Appalachian Trail. I've lived in 7 countries. I've traveled around the country. I've done a lot of cool stuff.
He's like, I literally touch grass, bro. Literally. I've been everywhere. Stop telling me to touch grass. There's no women where I'm touching grass at.
Going outside is what got me to believe this stuff, because I talked to people outside and they were not satisfied. And outside, I was on the Tom Bilyeu podcast and I was in West Hollywood, and I thought, I'm going to run a test. I'm going to walk around for an hour. And if there's a homeless guy in this wealthiest, I'm going to sightsee the homeless in West Hollywood, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the world. And there was this homeless guy doing PTSD shakes and screaming, I want to hurt someone. And I thought, there's no reason for this. This neighborhood's very wealthy. You could choose not to have this guy here, but it's a sign that's outside. And
go outside. Oh no, I might have fentanyl needles thrown at me from a crazy person.
Fentanyl's Philly's greatest export recently. It's from Kensington. And
yeah, fentanyl zombies just tweaking the fuck out. I saw that too, and I was trying to get a yogurt. I've told this story. Boba, sorry. trying to get a fucking boba, and the fentanyl zombie comes around the corner, dude, doing this fucking dance and shit. And I was like, wow, if this isn't distillation of America, I don't know what is. You have luxury shopping malls, you have a bunch of cars worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and right around the corner where a mother and her young daughter are sitting having a boba, fentanyl zombie comes walking around like it's the fucking Walking Dead and shit, and we're shooting a scene. Okay, dude. What?
Yeah.
So
Touch grass with all the zombies and roll into hypodermic needles.
So the dating situation is a complete catastrophe.
dating apps would be the second most unequal country in the world today, where it would be behind South Africa and ahead of Venezuela. And it's the worst possible equilibrium because I know lots of guys in that top 20% and they don't like it either. Where the guys who are doing well on the dating apps, hedonism's overrated, I've consistently found. Like the guys in that 20%, they mostly don't actually like being there. Past a certain threshold of hedonism, they do actually want to get a girlfriend or get married or that stuff. But the apps don't sort for them.
Nailed it. The only guys that push the player lifestyle have never themselves been players. It's absolute horseshit. It's so fucking overrated. And I've used the analogy of, I know it's hard to understand for a guy that never gets laid. It's like telling a dude in the desert that's dying of thirst not to worry about water, bro. It's not a big deal. It's like the guy is dehydrated. He wants water now. Yeah, don't worry about it, dude. We'll come across water later. We'll get water when we get home. That's kind of what it's like. But when you become uber successful, and you start to see that the same lines work on every woman, no matter her economic position. She could be folding clothes or a doctor operating on people. The same programming exists in all of them, the same dead-end conversations, the fake laughing, the stupid questions, the meaningless sex, get your nut off, now you're bored. You need to replace that dopamine hit with more novelty, newer women, until you finally meet one, and this is what happens, until you finally meet one that's just decent enough that you could stand after sex. She's actually okay at conversation, seems interesting, hot enough to keep your attention, and you go, yeah, this one will do. And that's essentially what all the guys around the top do. They keep passing these women around and she won't be the hottest one. She won't be the smartest one, but she'll have just enough of everything to keep her around. Because I'm telling you, all the guys I know that are very successful with the dating apps, all of us have smashed models, actual cover girls. I've had the prettiest women that you could ever imagine. We knew they were trouble. They had fucking mental issues up the wazoo, life experiences that would make you go, Jesus Christ. I've had chicks when I was dating around in Los Angeles. Like, man, I'm Eskimo bros with a lot of famous people. We'll just say that. And you don't hear about these until after the hookup experience. And it's insane to find out, like, wow, this A-list celebrity, bro, is in her DMs. She met up with him a few months ago, and now she's like gloating after you had sex about the guys in her DMs. And I'm just sitting there shaking my head. I'm a broke college student. I'm going, what the fuck, dude? You can't trust any of these girls. How could you possibly keep that girl satisfied in a long-term relationship when she had an A-list celebrity or like fucking MVP of the season football player? Some shit like it, bro. It's impossible. It's impossible. So you start to spot these little red pill tenants and you start to see how messed up the game is. And all guys, no matter how successful, at the end of the day, we're all longing for that one woman we could build a family with, because that's the next stage in being a man. That's what real manhood is about, being the head of a household. Every man would love that. It's not hard to have a fucking 5 bitches on your arm, dude. That shit's not impressive. Oh my God, congratulations. You got 4 or 5 sugar babies, bro. Wow, all your chicks are in bikinis. God, you must be so fucking empty inside, because we've all been there. All of us that have been successful. I know what you're doing. For the young guys that are like 12 years old, 14 years old and shit, the teenage boys that obviously look up to that, just like I did. Dude, the Dan Bilzerian types. I was like, wow, holy shit, this guy's got 20 chicks on him. He's living the Playboy lifestyle. It's like the teenage boy's dream. But you talk to these guys when they're older, they go, man, that shit is for the fucking birds. If I could, I'd take back most of that shit. I would do things so differently. Just find one real good woman. She's worth 1,000 of these hoes. I'm telling you, these women now destroy men's livelihoods. You get caught up being active in the streets these days. Like, you get targeted now. How many men? One of the most famous ones today. He's living here in Romania. His whole fucking shit, his enterprise came crashing down, got arrested. Why? Because he wasted time on some Instagram whores that try to get money from him. I don't know the details of his case, and I don't give a fuck. But the fact is, you mess with bird brains and they try to pull a fast one on you, falsely accuse you of shit to try to get paid. and turned your fucking life upside down because you wanted to stick your dick in crazy bitches off of Instagram. Some dudes just don't learn, bro. The power of thinking with the man downstairs is forever the downfall of every man. It's insane.
For that kind of person. And so they sleep with these women as a way to get around not actually having a better alternative. And I think society treats men as more cynical and more basically animalistic than men are. I think most men are actually very kind. I think most men have the natural paternal instinct in them.
Well, one of the things to speak to that, when my son was born, and I've talked about this on the show because in some ways it is the animating force. I was working at Spike TV. My wife, Lisa, we got engaged and the pregnancy happened right around that time. And so we were relatively young. Like, I'm under 50. My son is going to be 20. Would have been normal. Now I don't know anybody that's got kids that old at my age. It was so exciting to become a dad.
Yeah.
It has been the thing that has anchored my reality. I don't care about my political opinions. I don't ultimately care whether my work succeeds or fails. All of that's gravy because my family and because of especially my son. And but the narrative, like, it's like there was a revolution for men that just didn't get acknowledged. Like my wife and I, and this is true of all of my peers.
Yeah.
We aren't like 1950s men. Like we were changing the diapers and getting up and wearing the backpack on the front thing that Baby Bjorn or whatever the hell that thing was called.
Yeah.
We were doing all that stuff. And yet the public cultural narrative is still like bumbling Al Bundy that doesn't carry his weight.
Yeah.
And like I did this whole ad campaign at Spike TV called True Dads. And it was like, hey, one of the ads was like, we know you, super mom, the work, the kids, but what about you, Dad? Where's your super title?
Yes.
And it's like, we just literally never got one. It was like, do better, guys. Do better. It's like, we've been doing better. What are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
That's a good point because it brings up the point I was going to make. There's no incentive to cooperate inside the system. So you're talking about why someone would show up to work and not do a good job. And I can completely understand that because that was me in school. And if I had a job, I don't think I'd work hard at a job if I had a normal job now. I would be completely disaffected. And I work hard in my current job because I have a sense of investment in it. And also, it's my work. I'm responsible for it. I can do it how I want. I have agency. If you don't give men agency, men aren't going to work.
Yeah, he nailed it. The comments say, sure is a shame that 90% of American men will never be considered wealthy enough to attract a woman. To start a family. Because at least 2/3 of women ain't relationship material. Says, I've been single since I was in my mid-20s. I try to follow the advice to find women who shared my values. They don't exist anymore. Yeah. Most women are dating the same man. Jeez. These women get mad when you tell them you're not raising another man's kids. I just turned 62 and have never had a steady girlfriend. I was always considered to be too nice. There we go. By the women that knew me best. I was always looking for that one person. See, this is the blue pill shit. Like that one video we covered. That I would be so compatible with, but never found her. After spending the past 5 years now learning about the true nature of women, I'm very slowly realizing that God was protecting me from these hellacious beasts. Why are young men single? Because most guys are short and don't have felonies. Says, hey, in all fairness, women collectively told men for years that we weren't wanted or needed. Now they don't get to complain we're not around. Yeah, trust me, they're not complaining. They're just getting piped up by the select few men. They're just complaining about them not settling. They're not complaining about you not being there, Mr. Average. You don't exist in their eyes. You're beneath them. The high school sweetheart thing is hurt by the advantages modern girls have over modern boys. Well, to be fair, American women are the least desired women in the world when choosing for an LTR or marriage. I wonder, is there statistics to back that up, actually? It'd be very interesting. Anyways, appreciate you guys tuning in. Thoughts on this one. And appreciate you guys for linking videos like this. A lot of the stuff wouldn't come across my feed if it wasn't for you guys. So keep sending me a ton of recommendations to the email below. And I do check it as often as I can. So thanks again, guys. If you haven't, subscribe to the second channel and join us on some of the private calls in the private community. Love to have you there. And tell me what you think on some of the videos I've been uploading. As usual, take care, everybody. See you on the next one.